Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new. In today's video, we're going to be doing something very exciting. I have been tracking which eyeshadow palettes I have used since January 1st. So I'm going to just rank my eyeshadow palettes based on how many times I've used them over the last 6 months, because today is June 30th, so we're officially halfway through 2021, which is just crazy. So in total, I have 20 palettes to talk about. I do not own 20 right now. Some of these have been decluttered, so just keep that in mind. I think about 3 to 4 of them I don't have anymore. I'll mention if I don't have them. Yeah, but the first thing I wanted to mention is Eyeshadow Singles. So I do have quite a few singles. I've got a couple like empty Z palettes that I just filled with some singles. So in total, I used both these single palettes, and then as well as this glitter palette from Nabla. I really just used as like a topper shade, as well as things like this. This is the Essence one. I've also got a shadow stick from e.l.f., a loose pigment from NYX, and a melted chocolate matte eyeshadow from Too Faced. Products like these, I have a few more. All of those are considered singles. I'm not going to be ranking them in today's video, but overall I did reach for those 32 times. Earlier in the year, I was trying to pan a couple of single shadows, so that's probably why that number was so high. Realistically, it's probably going to be more like 20 or less, like 15 to 20, I would say. Maybe even 10, but I really was trying to push myself to use more singles, so I'm trying not to purchase too many single shadows because I really do just prefer palettes. So let's jump into the palette ranking. The palette that's at number 20 is not because it's not my favorite. You can't really take these into too serious of a consideration with ranking because I just got this palette, but number 20 is going to be the Nomad Iceland palette. This is the Fire and Ice palette. This palette is stunning, and like I said, it's no reflection that I don't like it. I just got it, so I've actually only used it once, and I'm ready to use it more, but yeah, I've only used it once. We'll check back in at the end of the year and see how many times I've used it, but it's stunning. I really love this palette. I'm not going to talk too much about them because we do have 20, so let's just keep the ball rolling. I used that one time. It was my least used palette so far, which makes sense. And in number 19, we have this one from Lime Crime. This is their Venus number 3 palette, and I've used this palette twice. This is a very soft pinky purple palette. It's really pretty. The packaging is quite bulky, and to be honest, I probably wouldn't have purchased this myself. I won this in a giveaway, but I have enjoyed it the 2 times that I have used it. So this is what that one looks like. In number 18, it's a little bit similar to the other one from Nomad, but this is the Nomad America's Parks palette. Again, I haven't gotten to use this too much. I've also used this one twice. So yeah, I just got this one right before I got the other one, and then I went out of town for a week or a little over, so I didn't get to use them too much. Also, I'm not going to like put them in ties for position, just to make it a little bit easier as far as that goes. If there was a tiebreaker, if there was a tie, I broke the tie, okay? So like, I used both of these twice, but I'm a little bit more intrigued with this one, so I ranked it 1 slot higher. I hope that's okay with you guys, but technically they're tied. For number 17, we have this one from Natasha Denona. This is the Ayan, I can't say that word. I keep wanting to say Anaya. I'm like switching the Y and the N, but it is the Ayana palette, and this is a very, very beautiful palette. I've really been enjoying it. I didn't notice this. I also won in the giveaway with that Lime Crime palette, but the two, I believe, these 2 mattes here are from the Natasha Denona Glam palette, so I actually already own that one, but this one's just really nice. If I'm in a hurry, I will just grab it, put like these 2 shades on, and throw probably this one on usually. It's just super quick and easy, but it's a very, very nice palette, and the quality, of course, is amazing. I used this one 3 times. That one and the Venus 3 palette were also newer to me. Number 16, I'm actually decluttering this one, but it's the ColourPop Fame palette. I do still have it. I think my colors might be slightly out of order, but you can get the idea of the palette here. I think this one's just old. It doesn't really do a lot anymore, so I think it's just time to get rid of it, but I do still have it, so I wanted to mention it, but I did use this 4 times. Number 15 is the Sigma Enchanted palette. I also used this one 4 times, but again, I like this one better than the ColourPop Fan palette, so I ranked it higher. This one, I'm surprised I haven't used it more because I do think I got it in late February. It's a very beautiful palette, I just find I don't reach for it as much, even though when I do reach for it, I do like the look. Number 14 is the first palette that I don't actually own or have still. It is the ColourPop It's My Pleasure palette. I'll put a picture of it right here if you're unfamiliar. I did use this palette 5 times, but I did want to note it was usually just reaching into like 1 or 2 shades and using it in conjunction. So when I marked my palettes, if I use them, like if I use more than one in a day, whether I use 2 to create a look, or sometimes I'll do my makeup in the morning and then at night I just want to like play like I kind of did today. I used a different one this morning. I will just write both of them on the calendar. Yeah, so sometimes there's a lot of palettes, but usually it's just like 1 or maybe 2. But I did want to note that about that palette, but I did reach into it 5 times. Next up, number 13, I also reached for this one 5 times, but I used, at least 3 of the shades when I did, and that is the e.l.f. Quad. This is the Bite Size Quad in Rose Water. This one is also just really nice. It's super good for a quick look, really easy to use, and I really like it. Number 12 is another palette that I don't actually have right now. It's in the other room. I just don't feel like going to get it. It is the Tarte and Aspen Overt palette. I have used this 6 times this year, but I have since moved it to like a memory box because it's just old and I didn't need to be using it anymore. But I did use that 6 times this year. In number 11, keep in mind, I haven't had this since January. If I had this since January, it would have been a lot higher. It's the palette that I used to create today's look, and it is the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette. I love this palette, and I'm surprised that it's not higher up, but it's just because I haven't had it as long, so I haven't been able to use it as much as some of the ones on the top of this list, but I also used this palette 6 times. All right, we're at the top 10 now, so that was the bottom half, okay, least used half. I really like a lot of those. So yeah, number 10 is the Revolution Diamonds and Pearls Quad. This one is honestly really underrated in my opinion. The packaging is quite bulky, but this was the palette that I took with me on vacation because it does have a mirror, which is nice, and it's just really self-explanatory what to do. So I really like the colors in it. Number 9, I used this palette 9 times, and this was the Chi Chi Pastels and Dreams palette. This is actually not the one I've used 9 times. But I gotta say, I have a huge frustration with this palette. If you've been around my channel when I got this, you know that this shade was leaking in oil. I reached out to the company and they said they don't know what's going on with this formula. It's new and they're working on it, whatever. Well, I paid like $40 something for this palette, so it was really disappointing that it looked like that. So they were really nice and they had really good customer service and they sent me a new one. And when I got it, I popped that shade out of there and I set it out for probably over 2 months. And I even used like tissue paper and tried to get all the oils out of it. And I decided it was time to put it back in because it didn't seem like it was leaking. Do you see this? It is just, it's back. And I gotta be honest, that just like really makes me not want to reach for it. And I've only reached into this palette, I think twice since they replaced it. So that's why it looks brand new. But I did use the other one. And in total, I've used both of them 9 times. Another palette that I use 9 times is the Juvia's Place The Deuce palette. I put this one in the number 8 slot because I do prefer it to the other one, to the Chi Chi Pastels and Dreams palette. But this is the inside of this one. This one has been discontinued, but I actually bought mine off of Poshmark and I haven't had any problems with it. I just sanitized it, wiped off the top layer. We're good to go. Yeah, but I used this one 9 times. The number 7 spot goes to the Charlotte Tilbury Quad in Pillow Talk. I used this one 10 times, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that this one ranked so high because when I look in my collection, I don't feel like I reach for it that much, but I actually do because it's a really nice palette just for something quick. Again, if you're just getting ready and you want to get ready, but you might not have enough time, this is a really good one. Number 6 really shocked me. Do you know what this palette is? Because I can't read it. Yeah, y'all. This palette has been decluttered from my collection, basically. I haven't mentioned it in a decluttering video, but yeah, it's gonna have to go. This is the ColourPop Golden Coconuts palette. This shade has been swapped out for one in another palette, but I just can't stand this palette. It really mostly comes down to the packaging. I hate the packaging. I don't like ColourPop's plastic packaging. Their cardboard is where it's at. This just never shuts, and then it's just terrible. It also has too many of those shades with the loose pieces of glitter in it. I don't like this palette. We don't need to talk about it, but I'm really surprised that I used it 12 times, and I'll tell you why. Like I mentioned earlier, I kind of retired my Tarte X Aspen Ovard palette. It was my favorite perfect neutral palette, and this one truly was a good like color dupe to it, but the more I used it, and I made myself use it like 12 times to make my decision, it's just not as good. It's really not. Those shades with the glitters really make me mad. The packaging of Aspen's palette was just beautiful, and it really just can't live up in my eyes. I'm sorry, I know a lot of you guys like it. Don't come at me in the comments. I don't even know. I don't like it. I'll pass it on to someone else, and hopefully they can enjoy it just as much as a lot of you guys do, but I just wish I'd picked up the That's Taupe palette instead of that one. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. Yeah, that one can just leave. All right, you guys, are you ready for my top 5? Because I'm not surprised by any of these. And in the slot number 5, we have the Huda Nude Light palette. I love this palette. This was my palette of 2020. It was just amazing. You can see I've hit pan in 2 of the shades. All of them have pretty significant dips in them, so this is just a perfect palette for me. I used this one also 12 times. I know I'm kind of cheating because the Gone Coconuts was the same amount, but this one like is so much better. I made myself use that one. I enjoyed and chose to use this one, if that makes sense. So I used this one 12 times. I really love this palette. Last year I used it a lot more because it's had some competition. Yeah, like 3 of the palettes that are higher up have been added to my collection later than this one, so I guess I just kind of like wanted to use the new ones, but I really love that palette. I wouldn't keep my palettes, and the ones I have decluttering, they're gone, but I wouldn't hold on to palettes if I didn't love them, but the top 5 are really, they're my top 5. Speaking of Huda Beauty, number 4 is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. I used this one 16 times in the last 6 months. Again, I love this palette. Huda just has some really great formulas, at least in the 2 palettes that I've tried from her. I really like the formula, and yeah, I've reached for this one 16 times. In 3rd place, we have the Persona Identity 1 palette. This is a really, really nice neutral palette. I love this palette so much. When I look at this and I think about the Gone Coconuts palette, I don't even want to think about that palette. That's why I'm not holding it up right now. This is all I need. I love it. I just much prefer this. I know everyone says this, but the shimmers are just so unique. They're so just unique. They're really good for, I would assume, mature eyes. They don't emphasize any lines or wrinkles or texture, anything like that. They're just really like foiled on the eyes. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have heard all about these shimmer shades from their formula, but I mean, for good reason. These are really, really good. So there's some of the shimmer shades, and I just think that they're awesome. That's why I had to swatch them for you. But that one comes in at number 3, and I did use it 17 times. All right, can you guess my final 2? I feel like if you've been around for a few videos, you could probably guess my top 2. But in the number 2 slot is the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Again, another perfect neutral palette. Goodbye Going Coconuts. It can just go away. I used this Natasha Denona Glam palette 19 times, and I love it. I used this today, and then I took it off to do this makeup look, but yeah, this just really doesn't disappoint as well. This one also has really, really pretty shimmer shades, which I really appreciate when a palette has good shimmer shades. But at the same time, of course, the mattes blend out really well, and those are some of those shimmer shades, and they're just really stand out. I mean, they're just really good. But my number 1 spot goes to the palette that not replaced, but updated the Huda Nude Light for me this year. Like, this was the palette so far of 2021 for me. It's the ColourPop Making Mobs palette. So, like I mentioned, last year, the Huda Nude Light was like my perfect palette, and it's still stunning. Obviously, it was my number 5, but I just got really into the mauve tones instead of kind of like the more peachy pink side of things. So this palette I used 20 times, so just once more than the Natasha Denona Glam palette, but I did use it the most, so it definitely has to rank number 1. So that's been it for today's video as far as ranking all of my palettes based on the number of times I've used them. I do feel like it's a good thing to throw in the disclaimer that in the month of May, I made sure to use everything once. So I might not have reached for some of the ones that are lower on this list, and I might have used something like Making Mauves more if I didn't make myself do that. But I only did that in May, so this number should be pretty accurate. That's why I didn't include the singles though, because I did kind of make myself use all of the singles. So yeah, some of these numbers really surprised me, but when it comes down to it, those are my top 5 palettes. When I look at my collection, I think these are the ones that I would rank top 5. I don't know if it'd be in that order particularly, but for sure, like, these are my top 5 palettes. Yeah. Now the Nomad ones, I love those, but you can't, my neutrals and my pinks, like, that's my day-to-day. So yeah, I love that. And then the Give Me Glow Pastel, that top 6, it's in there too. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm not one to really enjoy tracking things. Like, I tried the Project Pan and I just found it a little bit monotonous to like make the little tally marks every day. It just kind of took the fun out of it for me. But this one is not so difficult because if I forget it one day, then when I look at this calendar in my drawer of my vanity, I just jot it down really quickly. It's a lot easier to remember for me what eyeshadow palette I wore versus like a foundation or something a week ago. So I haven't minded too much tracking the eyeshadow palettes, and I'm glad that I stuck with it for the 6 months because that was honestly really fun. I didn't tally it up until today. I had no idea, and I just find it really interesting. Also, I didn't wear makeup every single day. Let me actually count and see how many days I did not wear makeup. So in total, I did not wear makeup 32 days out of the last 6 months, which is kind of crazy because that's a month total, but I'll go a few days here and there where I just don't really feel like it or don't have the time. I went on vacation. I only wore makeup like once or twice. So yeah, there's been 32 days without makeup. So you have to keep in mind, it's kind of more like 5 months because that's a whole month of no makeup. But sometimes, like I said, I do like multiple looks a day, or I'll reach into 2 or 3 palettes. So yeah, I'm super excited about this. Honestly, I think you guys can probably tell. With that being said, that's going to be it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!